Good morning, my dear student. Today your physics class and the next chapter, the laws of motion. The laws of motion. You have already known laws of motion from the class 9. Newton's laws of motion. So, you know it, already you know it. 3 laws are there, first, second and third laws. So, first law, second law and third law. My dear student, you are in class 11. So, first law, second law and third law. From the 3 laws, we know 3 different sides, activities, says. Just you know it. From the first law, you know only the definition of force. Second law, you know the measurement of force. What is the value of force? And third law, the effect of force. So, my dear student, from the first law, you know it, the 3 or 4 words are very important in this law. When an object is uniform motion, motion in straight line, and if the motion is uniform, that time the acceleration is 0. And balanced and unbalanced force. So, my dear student, you know it from your previous class. If you are not apply on a system in the external unbalanced force, not the balanced force, the object cannot change its states of motion. That means if it will be rest, try to rest. If it will be motion, try to its motion in a uniform and straight line. What is the inner meaning of it? What is the inner meaning of it? First is uniform motion. Second is straight line. And those are affected due to their balanced force or unbalanced force. Means, okay, so uniform motion, that means you know it, position time graph. This is the uniform motion. This is the velocity time graph. This is the uniform velocity or the uniform motion. Okay. So, when the motion is uniform, that time acceleration is 0. That means, if you try to create some acceleration on an object, you apply the force on that object is unbalanced force. So, if you see the object is in a circular motion, okay, the object is moving in a circular path and constant acceleration, it means constant speed, okay, constant speed. When you know it, the constant speed, that time the force will be balanced force. Okay, balance force. If you see the object moving uniform speed, means the velocity of that object is here and velocity of that object is there is also the v. U and v both are equal. If u and v both are equal, then acceleration equal to v minus u by t, that is equal to 0. So that time the object moving in a uniform velocity. Okay. Straight line. Straight line means you see the motion is straight line. If you apply the force on that object, means due to the balance force the object is moving in a straight line with the uniform velocity. Okay? Suddenly you try to change their velocity, that means it creates some acceleration or the retardation. That means that time the direction of the motion will be changed. Direction of the motion will be changed. That time it will not move in this direction, it will not the straight line. So, my dear student, you check it, your first law. First law, 3 words are there, 3 or 4 words are there. If you are not applied on the system, means force, which type of force? Unbalanced force. That time it not create the acceleration. Means in the absence of the unbalanced force on that system, on the object, that time the object try to always in its original state. Means if it is in rest, the object is always try to tendency or try to rest. If you see the object was moving with a uniform velocity or uniform motion with a straight line, it always continue if you are not applied on the system unbalanced force. So, first law describe the definition of force. So, what is force? You know it from your class 8. Push or pull on an object is called the force. It is a great definition. But in your books, you see so many definitions are there. Those are not the definition of force. Those are the effect of force. Okay. Due to this reason, change its shape, size, change its direction, change its size, and so many terms are there due to the force. So those are the effect of force, my dear student. But force is, you remember it from your class 8, that is the definition. What is pull or push on an object is called the force. So first law also explain the inertia on an object. Inertia of an object. Inertia means, inertia is the tendency of an object to always try to its original state. Means if you see the object is at rest, it will try to in rest, or object is in motion, try to always in uniform motion. That means the inertia 3 types. Some books you see the 2 types, and some books you see the 3 types. Inertia of rest and inertia of motion. And some books you see the inertia of direction also. So the inertia also called the first law of motion. Okay. So my dear student, inertia and mass. If the mass of this object is more, that time the inertia be more. If the mass of this object is less, that the inertia also be the less. Suppose you consider it. An object is here. If you try to change its state, means it is at rest. If you try to change its state, means in motion, you apply the force. The amount of force is more than when you try to motion on that object, because the mass of this object is less than that. So the value of the force is less than that. Am I clear? So the inertia also depends the mass of this object. Inertia also depends the mass of this object. If the mass of the object is more, the inertia also be the more. If the mass of this object is less, then the inertia also be the less. So, so many examples you see. Great example, you know it in your daily life when the bus suddenly try to stop. means driver use the brake. Okay, or suddenly start it. That time you see the passenger moving backside and also the front side. That means so when you see you are in the bus, suddenly apply the brake, you will be moving forward direction. And suddenly change its speed or suddenly start it, that time you will be backside. You will move in backside due to the inertia of rest and inertia of motion. So, my dear student, you know it for your daily life. And Newton's everybody continues in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled by net external force to change that state. Net external force means net external unbalanced force. Unbalanced force. Net external force 0 means balanced force. Unbalanced force. External force to change that state. Okay. So, definition of force from the Newton's laws of motion. Force is something which changes or tends to change the state of rest or uniform motion of the body in the straight line. Thus, the definition of force comes out Newton's first law of motion. So, my dear students, you remember it. The first law describes the definition of force. Okay. Second law. Newton's second law, before this, you know the momentum. One word is momentum. Momentum is the product of mass and its velocity. It is a vector quantity, you know it. So, mass is a scalar quantity. If P equal to m into V, that time you can write it vector of P equal to m into vector of V. So, this is the linear momentum. Why we consider it is the linear momentum? Because in class 9 you see then linear momentum and linear words are not mentioned there because only you know it, momentum means linear momentum, but in your class 11 momentums, you see the two types of momentums are there. One is the linear momentum, another is the angular momentum. So, Newton's second law, before it, you explain the linear momentum, not the angular momentum. Linear momentum, when the object moves in a straight line with a velocity, it has a particular mass, so it has a momentum. That time momentum is called the linear momentum. So, what is its unit? What is its dimension? You know it. The unit is kg meter second to the power minus 1, and what is its dimension? ml t to the power minus 1. So, my dear student, you know it from your first chapter. So, momentum, you must be sincere, always use this term, the linear momentum. Okay. So, for the second law of Newton, from the second law of Newton, second law of Newton, you see in your books the rate of change of momentum. The rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to its applied force. So, rate of change of momentum means, if you consider, so my dear student, again I start it for the next day. Today up to this portion's second law of Newton's again start in second day. So, my dear student, today up to this portion, thank you my dear student.